So the idea of the 4x4x48 is simple. Starting at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So that's a total of 48 miles and 12 runs, almost 2 marathons. The 4x4x48 is the brainchild of David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL turned ultra endurance runner whose autobiography, Can't Hurt Me, became an international bestseller. Now, of course, if you're used to running 4 miles is no big deal. The hard part is doing it again and again and again and again and again, as the physical tiredness, the mental fatigue, and the sleep deprivation begin to mount up. No sooner have you had a bit of rest, and you need to go out again.
You don't find inspiration by not living in the grip of life. You need to live in the grip of life to find inspiration. Put challenges in front of yourself. When you put a challenge in front of yourself and you attack it, that's when you find inspiration.
As I'm currently training for my first ultramarathon, I figured that the 4x4x48 would be good practice and a test of my physical and mental endurance, because it's basically an ultramarathon broken up into small pieces. I also thought it would be a good opportunity to raise money for charity. I also like the global, simultaneous aspect of the challenge, because everybody who takes part in the 4x4x48 is running at the same time. So in my case, I'm on CET, Central European Time, so my first run was at 5 a.m. local time. And then I ran again at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., 9 p.m., 1 a.m., 5 a.m., and so on and so forth. And my last run was at 1 a.m. on Monday. So although the runners weren't running in the same place, knowing that there were thousands of other people doing the challenge at the same time in different parts of the world created a real team spirit. And everybody was sharing tips and strategies and recipes for running food on the internet and encouraging everybody to keep going. And that created a really nice team spirit that was really quite special, especially in this time when we're all craving social interaction, and if you're into sport, then not being able to compete as a team or see your teammates it's a definite frustration. With me being a judo and jiu-jitsu player, I've really missed the camaraderie of those sports over the last year or so. And so doing this was an opportunity to do something that's normally a real solo activity in the company of thousands of others, albeit virtually. Now, I must admit that I thought quite hard before deciding to take on this challenge, because I had no real way of knowing exactly how my body and mind would respond. Normally when I'm training for a sporting event, I do very specific training that is tailor-made for the type of event that I'm going to be doing. I only decided to enter this less than 2 weeks before the actual event, so there wasn't really all that much time to prepare. And with it being such an unusual event, with the activity broken up into little blobs over the space of a weekend, I mean, I'd never really done anything like that before, so I really had no idea what was going to happen. But after a bit of reflection, I thought, well, that's the perfect reason to do it. I wanted to discover what it would do to my body and mind, and how I would respond and how I would overcome the challenge. And I have to say, I am so glad that I did this. Goggins himself often talks about the 40% rule. The idea of the 40% rule is that when your body and mind are starting to get tired and you're starting to think about giving up, you're actually only 40% of the way towards your actual limit. And once you push past the tiredness and the desire to quit, you find a whole realm of untapped potential. That's really what his book is all about. If you fancy reading it, I'll leave a link in the description. And really, the 4x4x48 taught me that the 40% rule is true. Okay, it might not be exactly 40%, it might be 30% or 45%. That's not the point. The point is that I discovered a lot of untapped potential, which in ordinary life, I would never really have a glimpse of. Most of the sporting events that I've done in the past have been, for example, judo competitions, and these events don't really last that long. And I know exactly what to expect. I've spent many years training for it, so the format is something that is in many ways a lot easier to conceive. The 4x4x48 is a totally different story. And I definitely learned a lot about myself by taking it on. Once you've discovered what your real potential is, that carries over into your everyday life. So what was it like? The first couple of runs were pretty easy. I got them out of the way and had my first snack and nap after run number 2. I had a couple of routes mapped out in advance, which helped because I wanted to know exactly where I was going, and I didn't want to finish too far from home. Round 3 was pretty easy as well. So on round 4, I decided to make up a new route. Seemed like a good idea, but actually it wasn't, because by that point I was starting to get tired. The small but significant extra burden of navigation made this run feel like much more of a grind than it should have done. And I was messing with the plan at a point where I really needed to save my mental and physical energy. So I definitely won't be doing that again. The strangest runs were the runs at 1 a.m. And on Saturday night, Sunday morning, the darkness and the silence was punctuated by the odd drunk stumbling around. And I was also starting to hallucinate, not in a major kind of way, but the sleep deprivation does strange things to your brain. And I was imagining figures kind of shimmering across the road in front of me, which was a little strange. And certainly not something that I've ever experienced before. But it is quite a well-known phenomenon on ultra events that as your brain gets tired, hallucinations are actually quite common. So it is important to make sure that you get naps and that you don't place unnecessary cognitive burden on yourself while you're doing this event, because you need your brain to be functioning as well as the rest of your body. But after a bit of a sleep, I got a second wind, and my fastest run was actually on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. So that was run number 8. I then dipped a bit on runs number 9 and 10 because I was starting to get cramp in my calf. And again, I was feeling kind of sleepy, and so I decided to go a little bit slower on runs 9 and 10. And then on run number 11, I had a friend join me, and he motivated me to speed up a bit again, which was actually really fun. It was fun to do at least one run with somebody else. Run number 12 was more of a mental battle because by that point I was feeling really exhausted. I just wanted to go to bed. My body didn't feel too bad, but I decided to keep myself awake and not take any naps in the evening because I was worried that if I did go to sleep that it would be too much of an effort to wake myself up again. And I think that was actually a good plan. One more run to go. I've got another 90 minutes till the last run, and I am pretty tired. Yeah, I'm just trying to stay awake until the last run because I'd rather try and stay awake than attempt to haul myself out of bed. Yeah, I mean, I can sleep later. It's fine. The other thing was that I wanted to make sure that it was easy to get to sleep when run number 12 was actually finished. So I figured I'd save the sleep up until I was completely done. So here are my tips for anybody who's thinking of doing something like this. Tip number 1, mindset. The key to this is not to think about the totality of all of the miles that you have to run and all of the runs that you have to do, but to just think about the run that's coming next. When you break it down into small pieces, it's much more manageable. Can you do another 4 miles? Yes, it's only 4 miles. You get that out of the way, and then you do the next one. When you think about the whole thing, well, I've got to run 48 miles. Obviously, that's going to seem really overwhelming. So don't think too much about the whole thing. Think about it in small, manageable pieces. Training. Now, you're probably not going to replicate the challenge in your actual training, but I would suggest mimicking part of the challenge by doing a couple of 4-mile runs within 4 or 5 hours of each other, maybe extending it to 3. It's also a good idea to practice running in the middle of the night or running when you're a bit sleep deprived, because that can be a rather strange experience. The more prepared you are physically and mentally, the easier it will be to do the actual challenge. Tip number 3, prepare your routes in advance. As I said earlier, on run number 4, I decided to make up a new route. This was a big mistake. When you're tired, you don't want to be focusing too much on navigation. You want to know what your routes are in advance, so plan them out before the challenge. Make sure they're exactly 4 miles long, and make sure that they end either at your front door or very close to your front door. Safety is another point in this respect, because you probably don't want to be running through the middle of a park in the middle of the night. So make sure that the routes that you have mapped out are safe and that other people know where you're going to be going. Tip number 4, expect tiredness to come and go. It's not a linear thing. It comes and goes in waves. So yeah, second run, I'm going a lot faster this time. Obviously I don't want to go too fast because I've got a long way to go. But yeah, to be honest, I was feeling like shit this morning. I didn't sleep enough. My stomach was a bit upset, so I thought, okay, let's just go at granddad speed. I did it, it felt alright. And yeah, a few hours later, I feel a lot more energetic, so I thought I'd just do one round a bit quicker and then maybe ease off on the third one, have a nap, maybe pick it up again a bit later in the day. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never done anything like this before, but yeah, I just have to keep my ego in check and not go too fast or get too competitive. On day 2, I felt surprisingly fresh, and run number 8 was actually my fastest. So you won't necessarily have the most energy at the beginning, and that's quite a strange thing to experience, because you would think that your energy would gradually deplete like this and that your tiredness would gradually increase like this. It isn't like that. It's more of a wave. Take naps, of course, when you can, but make a judgment call about whether going to sleep at any given point is actually a good move strategically, because especially towards the end of the challenge, the temptation to go to bed and stay there is very strong. And I actually kept myself awake for the last couple of runs because of that exact thing. So yeah, just be aware of the fact that it's going to get harder and harder to get out of bed if and when you do have naps. Tip number 5, nutrition. Eat proper food and healthy snacks. What do I mean by proper food? Well, for example, I ate a lot of whole grain porridge with fruits and nuts, pasta with fresh vegetables, that kind of thing. I also baked some granola bars the night before, and I fueled my body with good, whole, fresh foods. What a lot of people will do on an event like this is they'll stuff their faces with sugary crap, and that will give you a very temporary lift in your blood sugar, but there's a heavy price to pay for that, because of course then your blood sugar will crash and you'll start to feel like rubbish. So I definitely wouldn't recommend stuffing your face with sugary snacks or drinks or anything like that. Tip number 6, electrolytes. It's not just about hydration. Your body needs salts. When you're sweating, you will expel a lot of salts from your body, a lot of electrolytes. So it's important to replenish those as you go. Natural electrolyte-rich foods include cherries, bananas, and coconut water. So keep taking them on board so that you don't find that your muscles are suddenly cramping up and giving up on you. Tip number 7, yoga. I did 10 minutes of yoga before and after every single run. This was to keep my muscles warm and keep my muscles and joints limber for the whole weekend. I didn't want to stiffen up and start having joint or muscle problems. I can highly recommend yoga with Adrienne. She has some running specific yoga routines that are about 10 minutes long, and you can use these to warm up and warm down after each session. You probably won't feel like doing this towards the end of the challenge, but I highly recommend that you do. Tip number 8, run in different shoes. This is just to give your feet a bit of a rest and a bit of variety. So I was switching between fast road running shoes and trail shoes. The trail shoes have a bit more cushioning and stability. Tip number 9, cold showers. Cold showers help to reduce inflammation and they also wake you up. So they can be a bit unpleasant, but I highly recommend them for keeping you going. Tip number 10, have all your stuff lined up and ready to go. That means food, drinks, clothes, towels. When you are sleep deprived, everything becomes a lot more challenging. I actually didn't have enough food prepared, and on Saturday night I had to go to the supermarket and it felt like I was doing a secret mission. It was difficult, a lot more difficult than it should be. So make sure that you've bought more food than you actually think you will need and that it's pre-prepared as much as possible. So you can cook big bowls of pasta and make snacks and all that sort of thing. Towels are a less obvious thing. The reason why I mention this is that you're going to be showering a lot more than usual. And when you're knackered, you don't want to be drying yourself off on a damp towel in the middle of the night. It's not very much fun.
So make sure you put that towel over that nice chair so you don't it up.
Tip number 11, tick off your runs as you do them. This will help you keep track of what you have done already, which again can get a bit confusing when you're tired. And it's also very motivating because you see yourself edging towards the finish line. Tip number 12, talk to people. I made a couple of phone calls while I was running, and I had a friend join me on run number 11, and I also joined a Facebook group of people in the UK who are doing the challenge, and all of these things combined helped to make it feel like I was running with other people, and other people were encouraging me to keep going. I was encouraging them to keep going, and it created a fantastic communal spirit that was really something quite special, especially in these times when it's difficult to connect with people and it's really difficult to do team sports, and in most cases, pretty much impossible. So I would highly recommend that you connect with people while you're doing the challenge. Tip number 13, remember, you can always walk if you have to. It's not a race, it's not about going the fastest, it's about finishing. And if that means that you have to walk for a bit, so be it. There's a fine line between pushing your limits and pushing yourself into an injury. I've been injured more times than I care to admit, usually because I ignored the warning signs. And it's tempting when you're doing something like this to keep going when you're getting pain signals that indicate that you're about to injure yourself. This is something that comes with experience, but if you're in any doubt, especially if you've not been running for very long, walk for a bit, and if you feel better, then you can carry on running a bit later. Tip number 14, recovery. There are two sides to this, the physical side and the mental side. On the physical side, it's really important that you rest for a few days. You've just subjected your body to a lot of strain and it needs time to heal. So go for some walks maybe. If you must, perhaps go for a light jog just to aid the recovery process. Do a bit of light yoga, to keep the body limber, and perhaps do a little bit of sports massage or an ice bath if that's an option for you. Foam rollers are also really good for ironing out little niggles in your muscles, but don't push yourself because you really need that time to recuperate. On the mental side, this is perhaps something that is not emphasized enough, but you are going to be mentally exhausted as well as physically exhausted. The effects of sleep deprivation are quite noticeable after an event like this. Sleep deprivation can take quite a few days to recover from. So make sure that you get plenty of rest, plenty of sleep after the event, and that you don't schedule anything super important on Monday or Tuesday, because your brain is probably going to be kind of mashed. I know mine was. On Monday, I actually felt a bit miserable, and it was very difficult to get anything done. I mean, I hadn't slept for most of the weekend, so it's not really very surprising. So that's also something that you need to plan for. Be nice to yourself. You've earned it. Finally, remember that the pain and discomfort is temporary, but the achievement lasts forever. You'll feel amazing afterwards, and it really is a really worthwhile thing to do. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It will really help me to make more videos like this in the future. If you think anybody you know would enjoy this video, please share it with them. And if you've got any comments or questions, please hit me up below and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Cheers and stay hard. Natural electrolyte rich foods. Natural electrolyte rich fruit. Natural electrolyte rich foods